All right, everyone, today we're going to work on an example. We're going to consider the function f of x as 1 over x, and I want to sketch the graph and find the key features and write the equation of this particular function here. Okay, and so when I have that particular function, if I want to write the equation of that function, I know it's going to be y is equal to, well, f of x is this value. If I plug my x plus 2 in, I get 1 over x plus 2. Then I subtract 1. All right, and so here is the equation that I wish to sketch today and find out information about. Okay, and so I'm going to look for the key features in the graph. And I should also think about the transformations that happened, which will help me with the graph. All right, and so if I'm going to be graphing things, I want to see what's going on. What the transformations are, if you remember, we've been reading these transformations in the past. This transformation means I'm going to go left 2. And this one here means I'm going to go down 1. Okay, and we'll talk more about that as we go. And if we take our base function, our pivot points, from our original function were 1, 1, 0, 0, and negative 1, negative 1, we're going to shift them as such. And so I'm going to shift them over 2. And I'm going to start with 0, 0 first. I'm going to shift 0, 0 over 2, and then down 1. Here, like my vertex on my quadratic, this is my key point. I also know that from my base function, if here's decimal, here's my base function, here's my intersection, and here is my key point here, in my axis. If I've shifted it over, then I also know that my asymptotes, this horizontal asymptote is going to shift over and down 2, or down 1. So this asymptote, here's my one asymptote, here's my other asymptote from the base function. What's going to happen is I'm going to take it, go over to the left 2, and then I shift it down 1, which means it's at x is minus 2. This one I shifted over 2 and down 1. And then you can see that it's here. So this is my first key point. This is my first key point, and it is negative 2, negative 1. My pivot point. Here's my pivot point. It's changed to negative 2, negative 1. Okay, if I start to make my table of values, and I start to think about where my points have changed to, and this is why, well, I'm going to base it on negative 2, negative 1. And so negative 2, negative 1 is my key. I'm going to then go to negative 1. And this I know is undefined. Oh, undefined. So negative 1 means where did the graph go to? Where did this point, 1, 1, goes over 2 and down 1 to here? It's going to end up at this position. I'm just going to transfer every point. This one goes to negative 1, 0. And this last one, I start off here, over 2, down 1, will be at 3, negative 3, negative 2. So negative 3, negative 2. There's where the graph is, in this position. And it's going to go down along here, and down along here. And so here, negative 3, negative 2. These are my pivot points. Okay, and I have the graph, I have my pivot points. Let's look about x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So my y-intercept, I make x equals 0. And so if I make x equals 0, I get y is equal to 1 over 0 plus 2 minus 1, which is equal to a half minus 1, which is equal to negative a half. So the y-intercept is 0 comma negative a half. That's this point here is negative a half. If I'm going to find my x-intercept, then I know that y is equal to 0. So from my equation, if I look and see, it's 0 is equal to 1 over x minus 2 plus 1. Subtract the 1 equals 1 over x minus 2. Now here's a trick that I was showing one student the other day, is just forget this. If I have 1/2, we all know it's equal to 3 over 6. So if I flip this fraction, 2 over 1, it's the same as I flipping this fraction as well. And so if I just have a single x, I can flip both these fractions to over 1. If I flip negative 1, that's negative 1 over 1 as well. And I don't even need the over 1s. And so I know I add 2 to both sides, and x is equal to positive 1 is my x-intercept, which we already knew because it was right there. This is my x-intercept 1, negative 1 is 0. All right, domain and range. Domain, range. Well, this time x cannot be negative 2 because that will make this bottom 0. So domain is x cannot be negative 2. The range, well, here's the asymptote this way. It cannot be negative 1. So my range y cannot be negative 1. And if we want to do the asymptotes, the vertical asymptote is x is equal to negative 2. The horizontal asymptote is y is equal to negative 1. Now, make sure you write them as equations. It would be wrong if I just said, oh, the vertical asymptote is negative 2. That is wrong. I have to say x equals negative 2. And so we have our asymptotes, pivot points, domain and range, x and y-intercept. We have everything we need to know about it. And this is how we transform it. We get this graph and our key features.